Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 28 of the Brighter Horizons podcast. We are hyped because today we're going to be talking about everything regarding the work-life balance. Is it real? How to achieve it, if it is, and why it's important. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. First question for you is, how are we feeling today, chat?
Dude, I'm feeling great. I'm not gonna lie, I thought first question was gonna be related to work-life balance. But
Yeah, of course. I wanted
you
to
know,
jump into it, but I feel we're getting a little bit ahead
I
of
mean,
ourselves.
I think, dare I say, that if I want to link the topics together, your day is a direct result of your work-life balance. I think, personally, because if I lead a bad work-life balance, I feel bad that day.
That's facts.
In whichever way the scale is tipping, right? If I feel like I worked too much in a day and I didn't enjoy it at all, at night I feel like I'm going to feel tired. Because for us right now, it's the end of the day. So, we're recording this pretty late at night. So I would say, at the end of the day, if I work too much, I think that genuinely, I don't think there's been a night where I put in over effort and then I felt good about it because I knew the next day was going to be bad. Like where I pulled an all-nighter studying, which you would say, oh, that's all work. You just did all this work. And the next day, I kind of feel like garbage. Whether it be because I'm tired or because I genuinely didn't do as well as I should have because I pulled an all-nighter. Right? I think that the concept of overworking is just as real as underworking. But then again, I'd say I've definitely felt a lot worse, or I felt worse more times because I didn't do enough during my day, meaning I led more of the life side of the balance scale. But today, I feel I lean towards the life side, and I have been lately because it's summer break after school, and I feel like every kid has that feeling of, dude, it's over. Now you gotta walk away. But I guess life doesn't really stop, so you have to keep going, keep finding motivation to move forward, things to keep working on. Because I feel like when you have things to keep yourself busy, you get the sense of satisfaction that I'm completing tasks. But the second that goes away like that, like with school, it feels like garbage. I remember that it was weird because sometimes towards the end of summer, I'd actually feel kind of excited to go back to school because I'd feel so bad about my days because I felt like I was just wasting my time doing nothing, that I would wake up and sad every morning, like, what am I doing with my life right now? I need something of substance to do. So when that was absent, nowadays I feel so lethargic and lazy, and I feel like I'm not doing anything because that huge 6-7 hour window that's usually there for school is now gone. And now I guess I have to find some way to fill that void. That was a very long tangent about how my day was.
I was going to say extremely long tangent. But, I mean, my thing here is I don't like the fact that we try to escape a lot of things by saying, since school is done, I can relax now and it's summertime. Because, just like you said, you feel worse when you're not doing anything. So, again, that's something we're going to get into now. But my first question would be, why do you think, or actually, no, the first question will be, do you believe the work-life balance is real?
No.
Okay, explain your
idea. It's actually a yes and a no. But I guess let's just dive into the topic. Let's
that's
cut
what
the small talk,
yeah,
right?
Okay.
So for the one thing is, I watched a video by Simon Sinek, and did you watch the same video?
I did, actually.
Okay. Well, the one thing that he talks about, and we've talked about him before on the podcast, so again, shout out to him. I urge you all to go watch him because I think he has very interesting takes on a lot of topics. And his take on the work-life balance is that, why does it need to be a work-life balance? Because a balance indicates that there are two opposing forces. And I really like that principle because there's the old adage of, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So it could really just be a life balance if you really think about it. We have this negative connotation with work, so we believe that everything that we do that's bad is work, is considered work, and everything that everything that falls outside of that specific definition of work becomes life. Oh, sorry, Mike. But you have this box. Like, for example, somebody that may work a 9 to 5. You set those hours as maybe work time. You consider that work time. And then maybe outside of it, you go to the gym. But you also consider that work because you feel like I'm working towards a better goal. Hypothetically, people might feel this. And then when you go home late at night, you feel like now is my time to rest. Now is my lifetime. My question is, why couldn't that time for a life have started an hour earlier? Why wouldn't you consider maybe that the gym is part of your life, is part of the good part of your life, that it isn't really work? What if your job instead was not just working away at a computer, but maybe speaking with your colleagues around you, getting social interaction. I feel like that social sunlight in your life is another aspect of it. So it's all about, once again, perspective. Is how do you see it? I think that you need to find a life balance, that you're going to lead multiple lives, but they don't need to contradict each other. They don't need to push against each other. Instead, they could all be moving towards the main goal of making you happy.
Yeah, well, the biggest point is that the two aren't opposing forces. I'd say they're two components that are joined together to form the abstract of your life. So it's not just the enjoyment aspect or just the work aspect that counts as life, because you can't say that work and life are two separate things. They are one and the same, because life is part of work. If you're not putting your heart and soul into what you do, then clearly you're not doing what you love. And if you're not actually working towards things and achieving things, then you're not really living. You're kind of stagnant. You're in this position where it's like, I'm not doing anything with my life. And I'll tell you right now that I'm not afraid to say there are periods in my life where I am not doing anything, where I'm unproductive, where I'm not focused on my goals. In those stagnant times where I am completely bottomed out, no drive to work, nothing, and I'm just all play and I'm not focused on anything, that's when I feel the most miserable. That's when the little inconveniences start to get to me. And on this podcast, we talk a lot about having a positive attitude. It's hard to have a positive attitude when you let the little things get to you, but they only get to you when you don't have a bigger picture to focus on. So that's what the work aspect of life is supposed to provide. And it's not supposed, I don't even like calling it the work aspect, because funny enough, it's not even just Simon Sinek who believed that. It's also Jeff Bezos. I watched a video about him talking about the work-life balance. And when people said, oh, what are your thoughts on the work-life balance and how do you achieve it? And he said, the work-life balance isn't real because they're not two different things. They're one, just like we just mentioned. And the way that you achieve the best in both of them, so your life altogether, is by being happy in both situations. Because if you think about it, being happy at home, or your life aspect in this equation, allows you to be a better boss or employee at work. And if you're a better employee and boss at work, the same is true where you're a better husband or, wife or whatever at home. So by treating both with equal respect and love and passion and soul, you give the best to not only yourself, but to the people around you. All your coworkers, all your bosses, all your family members. Everybody wins when you put your heart and soul into your work and your emotional relationships and things you do to relax. So it's not a matter of figuring out how much time to spend on each. It's just figuring out how to work on both of them in a way that is synergetic, if that's a word. It's just the best way is just to have the two of them coexist peacefully. It's literally just like the yin and yang, push and pull, Tui and La, the two fish swimming in that koi pond. It just shows balance. And the funny thing is, that's what it's in the sentence, the balance, the work-life balance. But it's just twisted because the way that it's phrased is trying to say that they're two different things. But in reality, it's one.
I think that's the problem with the word balance. Because again, balance indicates you have two separate sides, right? But really, it's two things that both... I mean, I guess if you really thought about a scale, I'm trying to see if you can shift that analogy somehow. But because the way I see it is that each side really has an effect on the other. If you increase your life side, it's going to affect your work side. But I feel like it's more... Suppose that you have two scales, and your perception of what's on each scale is what actually affects the scale, if that makes sense. So, the enjoyment on one side is all by perception.
Nope, you're going to have to flesh that one out.
All right. Well, okay, so suppose you have this imaginary fifth dimensional scale, okay? And on this scale, the weight, so instead of it actually being physical mass, it's how much enjoyment you feel by it.
Okay, so I'm just going to imagine this as a seesaw. Okay,
yeah,
so
literally imagine a seesaw, okay? You have a life on this side and work on this side.
Okay.
If you always feel more enjoyment from your life, you're always going to have an unbalanced seesaw.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you can learn to find balance in the enjoyment you have
both,
then it'll kind of even out.
And you get the most out of both of them.
I don't know if that was a good analogy, but my point being that you will, because like if you think about it, if you really want to say a scale, suppose I guess increased weight makes it better.
Yeah.
By increasing the weight on one side, you're decreasing the weight on the other. Right, but by evening them out, it's like optimization. If you've learned that in if any of you have taken calculus and you did all optimization problems, anytime it was like solve the sum of two numbers and where the multiplication is the highest, it would be that the two numbers are as close to each other as possible.
So it's just looking for like the most optimal solution.
Yeah. So the most optimal solution is for both factors to be good.
Yeah.
And shocker, I mean, if you think about multiplication, for example, if you have a positive and a negative, multiply them together, what do you get?
Negative number.
If you have a positive and a positive, what do you get?
Positive.
Positive.
Then
So
what
you got to
about-
make sure that both sides are positive.
But then what about if both sides are negative?
Honestly, I can't help you there. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, because at that point you must be fed into some diluted reality where you would actually enjoy it. You know, like
I feel like
you
that
know,
you just have to be like a very sadistic person. to
yeah,
try
you know,
and-
like those criminals that don't regret it at all.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point. That's a good point. I'll give you that one. That's
Right?
valid. That's valid.
Because I guess it's all subject to your perception of what's really of how you enjoy your life.
Yeah.
But the main point of this is that you need to enjoy both sides, and to not see it as two opposing sides.
Yeah, well, that kind of is hard to say when you just.
It's
used it.
very contradictory, but obviously I think it's a problem with our society is that the way that we have begun to view these things.
No, you know what it is?
Yeah.
It's that we have separated the two because we created something that is more appealing than work and achieving goals. Imagine if you remove technology off the face of the earth and now all people had to do were, let's say, trades. Like you could go become a farmer or a blacksmith or something like that. Those were your choices, or sit at home and be bored all day. Everybody would get a job and do something with their life. But the reason why we don't, and we find that difficult and annoying, is because we have this. This is consistently distracting us. And it pulls our attention away. And it says, hey, scroll for that next video or play that next update on that video game that you love. That's okay. It's okay to enjoy these things. But the fact of the matter is that it has given you a sense of accomplishment when in reality it's all fake. That's what I don't like. That's what I absolutely despise this thing. And to be honest, if this podcast didn't exist, I don't think my social media presence would exist either. For me, it's either going to be this process that we're going through right now of building a community and spreading a good message to the world, or no social media presence whatsoever. Those are the two options for me.
Yeah.
And obviously I chose option one because for me, this is my version of saying, this is my work-life balance. I feel happy when I'm sitting here across the table from you recording an episode, or when I'm spending those hours editing videos and just trying to find new ways to deliver these good messages to people. When I'm doing that, I feel happy. I feel like the rest of the world kind of takes a background setting for me. It dims. It allows me to zone in and focus on what I love. So finding that is clearly important. And we've talked about finding your purpose, finding what makes you feel that. That's critical for you. And I think that is what will help you create this thing called a work-life balance. It's if you have something that you're willing to dedicate everything to and it doesn't feel like it drains from you, it feels fulfilling, that means something. So when you do put 100% into that, then when you come back and you rest, you feel 10 times better. Last episode, or maybe I was just having a conversation with you on one of the days between last episode and today, I remember telling you that somebody once said that on the days where you really, really work hard, where you zone in, you focus on what you got to do, once you do that and you take the time afterwards to rest, to play, to relax, not only do you feel happy because you worked, but the play aspect of life feels better too. It feels rewarding because that's realistically what it's supposed to be. The hard work followed by that great reward. That's what you want your life to be like. So when you invest all that time into the work aspect of your life, whether it's a project, whether it's a business, whether it's a podcast, whatever it is, when you invest that time into it, when you go home and you invest some time into it, the emotional weight, like you said, the enjoyment evens out perfectly because you've maximized enjoyment for both fields. So that's how you make your life 10 times better. So the next point that I wanted to talk to you about is, why do some people have this revelation
Yeah.
on their work-life balance situation? Why do people question, do I have a balanced life? Do I have any form of, balance between my work and my home and my friends and all these different aspects of our lives? Do we have balance? Why do people question it? And it was from a video that I watched by Patrick Bet-David. And he was talking about entrepreneurship and their struggles with the work-life balance. He said that the reason why you doubt yourself or why you question whether you're a good person or whether you have a work-life balance is because somebody else guilt-tripped you into it. Let me explain. When you feel that way, it's usually not because you thought it. You're probably investing your time into what matters to you. Somebody else, whether it's a significant other, a sibling, a parent, any family member, comes along and says, yo, John, you've been investing all this time into your business, but you have no time to hang out with us. You have no time to spend with the kids. You have no time for our family dinners or bowling night. What's going on, man? It's like we don't even matter to you. What's going on, man? Like there's no balance. Then you start to question, wow, am I a bad husband? Am I a bad father? Am I a bad friend? Do I need to step away from the business? Other people will infect you with doubt. Now, I'm not saying to ignore everybody else's opinions. That's not where I'm going with this. My point is, how do you solve that problem of other people enforcing their opinions of how you should live your life on you? The question is, do they understand where you want to go? Do you know where you want to go? So let's just continue this analogy here. I can see that you're starting to get lost.
No, I mean, I get your analogy. My point being that we've talked about it before in previous episodes, that your decisions do have impacts on other people.
True.
Right?
True.
So like, if you're an entrepreneur and you made a commitment to your business, but you also made a commitment to your wife to raise your kids, when you're neglecting that and you're, pushing more responsibilities on other people that you said you would take on, right? Because suppose you're saying, I'm going to be a father to these kids, and now you're gone working on your business until whatever, 12 at night, midnight, and there's nobody to help with the kids. So I wonder, is that fair?
Okay, well, my point here is, what is the solution? That's what I was getting to. The solution to that, of people not understanding your situation, is to explain it to them. Yeah. You need to first become very clear. If you want to make $150K a year, perfect, go do that. If you want to be a multimillionaire, perfect, go do that. If you want to be remembered in history, have your last name written in gold. If you want to be a billionaire, great, go do that. But when you decide to go do that, make sure that the people around you understand, hey, look, this is my life plan. This is how much I want to dedicate to work. This is how much I can dedicate to you. This is my life plan for this many years, and I'm going to achieve it. Now, when you say that, some people are going to laugh in your face. Some people are going to say, you, multimillionaire? No way that's happening. But when that happens, all you got to understand is they don't understand you. You explain it to them the best they can. And actually, it's a quote from this Pope. I don't remember his name, but he's always preaching about religion in like a very interesting way. And he said that when you give your all to somebody and you love them unconditionally, if they see that love as weakness, it is not the fault of the person who is giving the love, but the one who is receiving it. So the same applies here. You gave them the benefit of the doubt of, hey, this is what I want to be. If they can't understand that, that's on them, not on you. So don't feel bad about it. You need to be clear about your goals. And when you are clear, not only is it better for you, because you can actually focus on your work aspect or life aspect, whatever it is, or finding that balance, but not only can you focus on it, but they can also give you the space that you need. So everybody wins in that situation. Once you're clear on it, it's easy for everybody. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I don't disagree with the point. I just think, first off, yes, I completely agree. But I think there's compromise. Compromise is an idea that needs to be understood. Because, again, committing to multiple things. If you are driven, you might have a goal that you have to sacrifice everything for. I would ask you, what do you think is the better decision in the long run?
Okay, because paint a picture for me. Give me a scenario. I'm X years old. I have
You are 30 years old.
Okay.
Let's suppose you have a family, you have a wife and 2 kids.
Okay.
All right.
Boys or girls?
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, it does.
Whatever you want.
Okay.
All right. Let me guess. 2 boys.
No, I was gonna say 1 boy and 1 girl, but okay.
Really
Yeah.
surprising.
Just
But-
because balance,
Huh.
balanced as all things should be. All right. Anyways,
All
continue.
right. But okay, you got 1 boy, 1 girl.
Okay.
You're living a moderate life, but you're trying to get a business started. Now you've got a golden opportunity to make a great business, but and your kids are young. Kids are very young, like let's say 2 years old. All right, 2-3 years old. Okay.
Okay.
So you got young kids,
All right.
and now to make this business work, you got to be working overtime hours, 12, 13, 14, 20-hour days. Like you're working nonstop. You're never home.
So fully workaholic.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now your wife is constantly saying, "Hey, like I need help. I need help. I need help. I'm drowning."
Is
I'm
she
drowning."
a stay-at-home mom or is she working?
Let's say stay at home,
Okay.
but it's still difficult. All right,
100%.
and it's completely unable to do it.
Okay.
Just absolutely drowning. Now you got to pick your family or the business. What are you gonna pick? I'll make the decision for you. I know you picked the business. I meant the family. Don't lie to yourself, all right? And to the people out there. Everybody knows you picked the family. I'm not what's it called? Antagonizing you for it.
No, I get what you
But
mean.
I say that people value people more than money or than goals.
Well, most people value
I
others
think
more than money.
that in the end you will.
Yeah, 100%.
But
I think
at-
that in the end everyone does, but
'Cause
in the moment,
That's what I told you is that you asked me, what are my goals for the future? And I told you how they're going to change. How at maybe this point in time right now, yes, I want a Nissan GTR 35. Yes, I want a Lamborghini Huracan. Yes, I want a Koenigsegg Jesko. Yes, I want $1 million mansion. Yes, I want to be flying to every country on the planet. But I guarantee you, the second that I have a family, that's the only thing that's going to matter to me. I'm willing to stake everything on it. My point is that if you become so driven by this future goal that might not matter down the line, I think maybe you might have a lot of regrets about how it plays out. I would urge you to think about what's important to you in life. And if it's money, then go for it. I would never, if you're unhappy in your relationship, obviously don't value the people. If you're in a toxic relationship and you're working hard and she doesn't support you, then leave, obviously. Like, if you're in a bad relationship, actually, it was on the Alex Hormozy video that we both watched, I believe. You watched it, right?
yeah,
Yeah. He talks about how, him and his wife or girlfriend, I don't know.
wife. I think
Wife.
they're married.
They went through everything together. They started their businesses together. They worked through everything together. So, in that case, there is no overworking because they're doing it together. But if there's a separation and they're not right for you, then I would say chase that dream. But if it's affecting the things you really care about, then you need to reflect. Because in life, I don't think your goals are everything. I genuinely don't. I think your time on here is valued instead of some future thing that may not ever happen. And I'm not saying give up. I'm saying go for it, go for it, go for it. But keep in mind what you find to be truly important.
Well, you bring a very interesting point about what's important because if you think about it, let's say in this situation, we live in a world where none of these materialistic things exist, where the Koenigsegg Jesko doesn't exist, where there's no fancy cars, no fancy watches, where everybody just lives a life of peace. Let's say, take it back to when we were just tribes, when we didn't have cities, when we just lived like, let's say, the indigenous people, where we just lived.
Whoa.
That's like how all civilization started, okay?
Okay, so why'd you have to say? You could have just said how original the civilization started.
No, I'm not talking about current, I'm just talking about how we've been taught that, if you think about it, what does the word, indigenous people are technically from every single country. There's technically indigenous people for each country. That just means,
but
the
it's not
first people.
Yeah, but it's not like the first people in every country. You know what?
When I refer to it, I mean,
Let's just say stone people.
Now it sounds like you're making them sound worse.
No, I'm not talking about them. I'm just saying in general, the
Okay,
Flintstones. The Flintstones,
fine.
all right?
All
There
right,
you go.
we're going back to caveman times. Let's say
Yeah.
we're all the Flintstones. There's no
There you
fancy cars or anything, okay? In that situation, I think that you would value only two things. Your family and staying alive.
Yes.
So realistically, it's just a game of perspective to us because there is all these other external goals of money, fame, power, fancy cars. Just because that exists, some people tend to cast aside their relationships. Now, you know me. I'm not the type of person to do that. I care about the people around me a lot, and I value the relationships I have, and I'm a big advocate for it. But when you pose that question to me about whether I had to choose between the business or my family, what would I choose? I'd choose the family. But my only problem is I shouldn't have let it get to the position where I had to choose. You need to set your plan in a way that every party involved knows what's going to happen. And yeah, that doesn't mean the plan's going to go perfectly. Sometimes there's going to be things that go wrong. Sometimes you're going to have to put in more hours than you promised.
Okay, but in this hypothetical situation, like, you didn't really have a choice there. Like, you
Yeah,
had
no.
to be
That's
pulling
why I
the
said
bus.
in the hypothetical situation, I choose my family. But my point is in real life, now drawing the parallel here, bringing it to the real life situation, that's going to be me in the future. Well, it's not going to be me because I'm not going to let it get that bad. But my point is, like, when I push forward for my goals and I'm trying to achieve big things, I'm going to make sure that I'm very clear with the people around me. Like, hey, I'm going for this. I can dedicate this much time to you, and this is my plan. If you disagree, speak now. And if I can find a way to work with you and make some adjustments, I will. If not, so be it. But that doesn't mean that I'm gonna like. Okay, that sounds
So, like,
very
you have
aggressive.
a family, and now you have this conversation with your wife.
No. I'm saying like way before I
Well, my,
get.
my point of this is that, for example, a business opportunity or a work opportunity doesn't come by 10 years in advance. You can't always plan for that kind of a thing, right? Sometimes you might get a promotion, for example, but it's grueling hours. And now on the spot, you have to make a decision. Do I want to do it or not? That's when I'd say, listen, don't take this as me saying, don't chase your goals, because I am a big advocate. I think that definitely you should prioritize working on your future because it is very important. But to be mindful of what you have right now. Because again, what did Master Uruguay say? Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. Not just because it's called the present, but because it's really all you ever get to experience. All you ever really get to experience is right now. And it's your only time ever getting to experience it. So I would say that value your time here right now because, well, you're never going to get it again. But this was the point that I wanted to actually bring it back to, is the idea that balance is not found within a day. Balance might not be found within a week or a month or maybe even a year. It is found within your life. So you need to adjust your time frame of what balance is because a lot of people, you want to have a balanced day. But a balanced day doesn't really make any sense. I watched a TED Talk by, I think his name was like Nigel Marsh.
Okay.
Something like that. I want to give him credit because it's a really great TED Talk. And he talked about his story through trying to, he was a workaholic. And then he stopped and took 1 year leave to stay with his family. And then he went back to work after, and he was trying to solve this work-life balance crisis. And one thing he said was that he depicted his dream day of how, he would wake up and he would have this super nice breakfast, take his kids to school, go for a light shift at the office, play some sports in the middle of the day, and then, and go back to the office, go to a pub with his friends, drink some drinks, come home, have dinner with his family, and have a good night's rest, and then wake up tomorrow morning and do the same thing. He depicted that whole day, and then what he said right after was, guess how many times that day has occurred in my entire lifetime?
0.
0. And he said, it's because it's impossible. You can't find balance in one day because there's simply not enough time.
Okay.
What you need to do is widen your scope. Suppose you span that schedule of stuff now over 2 days. Now it's much easier to find that balance because maybe you're working hard at it one day and the next day you can take it back a little bit because you find that balance. And another thing that was discussed on the podcast with Alex Hormozy, I'm drawing a blank, is that, it's that some days you feel like working a lot more than other days. There's not going to be days where you can work to the exact schedule. What you have in society is a lot of people resting when they should be working and working when they should be resting, right? So if you have a mandatory break at work, how does that really affect you? Suppose that you're ready to work 6 hours straight, and then maybe at the end of the 6 hours, want to take a quick break, slam out the last 2 for your 8-hour shift. That would be optimal if you were able to work all that time and then take a break, because you're in, a flow state. And then as you begin to fall out, okay, let me pull myself out, relax, calm, get ready, and head back in and just finish it off. Or maybe you had a bad sleep, so you need 2 hours of work, and then maybe you take a rest, and then you can slam out 6 hours. My point being that you're not going to be able to work on the same schedule every single day, because each day provides different variants. And those variants are going to affect how you live that day. And it's also like the mood, because if I'm in a bad mood, usually I'm not going to want to work. And I'm not saying that everything should be how you want it, but be honest. If you spend 6 hours doing a task that you could have done in 3, you wasted 3 hours of your life, right? So you need to be conscientious about this. And that's what I wish companies would do more. I mean, as a kid, obviously, it's hard for me to say when I haven't really worked a real job. But from what I see from all the miserable people out there, I can see that there are a lot of companies that don't care about employees' well-being because they just want them to clock in and clock out. But they don't want them to actually do the good work. I think a lot of companies would succeed and people would succeed a lot more if they worked when they should work and rested when they needed it. It was Simon Sinek in his talk where he said that at his company you get 5 days in the year where you can just say, hey guys, I'm not coming into my shift, and that's it. Nobody can ask any questions. You just get those days off. You don't have to be sick. You don't have to be anything. You can literally just get those days off. And it's funny because people be like, oh, that's so stupid. How people can just skip work. But the way he described it is that people already do it. What did they do? Pick up the phone. I'm sick. I'm not going to be able to come into work today. Mm-hmm. So people will do it anyway. Why not give people the free conscience to do it when they should? Because sometimes, suppose it's a beautiful day out there you don't want to miss. Remember, I talked about this experience, and it has stuck with me all this time, was when I was standing there in the drive-thru, taking the guy's order, and he said to me, as he was driving away, you're missing a beautiful day out here, kid. That one day, that one memory is drilled into my brain, and I don't think I'll ever forget it. Because I constantly think about that fact, that day, that beautiful day, I spent standing in a McDonald's drive-thru. And I wondered, is it really worth it? Is it really just worth it for this job? And obviously, I think that it's important you need to strike the balance. That's the whole point of this, is that you can't just keep chasing one thing and neglect everything else. You need to find value in both sides. And both sides need to be optimized. Both sides need to be enjoyable for you to live the most fulfilling life.
Damn, you cooked. That's actually very true. And that story alone, that makes me reflect on a lot of my time on this earth. Because if you think about it, how many days do you really miss? How many good days do you really miss? Think about today. Even though we were driving for close to 2 hours, that entire drive, I enjoyed it the whole time. Not because I was driving, but because I was with you. I was with our friends, and the sun was out, and it was just a good day. Now imagine how many of those days you're missing because you're trapped at a job you don't like, or you're trapped working when you shouldn't be working. So finding that is important. But I wanted to pose to you one question going back to the whole, family or business situation. Okay? Do you think that you would be able to live with yourself if you gave up on your dreams for other people?
I mean, the thing is, again, I'll tell you this wholeheartedly, that I believe this. Like, I wholeheartedly, hand held to God, believe that this is how I would live it, but I can't say that for sure until I'm in the position. But I think if I was in a position where I had a family, my goal or my dream would never be about me anymore. I wouldn't dream about myself. I would dream about them and their success, their happiness, their future. That's the kind of person that I want to be. That's the type of person I think I am. Now, if I was presented with the opportunity to make $1 gazillion, but I had to sacrifice my family, I don't know. For example, if you had behind one door infinite money and behind the other door your life, obviously I would pick your life, right? Does that mean, because maybe my dream is to be rich, but that's not as important to me as the people around me. So I don't know if I would feel necessarily sad about sacrificing that. because I think that every day I get to spend with the people that I love is priceless, right? So that materialistic gain that I might get from a business or from the nice car or whatever, it would pale in comparison to spending the time with the people that I care about. That's the
That's
way
true.
I see it, at least.
That's true. I agree with that. Because if you think about it, one thing that just like vividly came into my mind. Think about all the toys or cards or whatever you got as a kid, those material items. You remember the moments that you got them. Well, no, sorry, you don't remember the moments you got them. Or maybe you do, okay? But for the most part, most of these things you probably don't remember exactly when you got them, but you do remember those moments where you did something with them, where you played with them, or you were with your friends and you did things. One great example for me is Pokemon cards. I might not remember every single pack opening where I got an EX or something cool. But you know what I do remember? One Christmas where the two of us got Elite Trainer boxes. We split up into two groups with our friends. I went upstairs, you went downstairs. We're recording our entire unboxing as if we're YouTubers. And then I pull a Golden Secret Rare and my best friend is sitting there next to me. We're screaming, jumping up and down with excitement. I still remember that memory, even though that was over a decade ago. That was so long ago, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. Why? Because the people around you make those memories so much more valuable. So I agree with you that I would certainly pick my family over anything. And realistically, I already do that. I already put the people I care about above a lot of my own needs. And I think that that's your duty as a man, which I don't like. I know that there's backlash to saying that sentence in general nowadays, but in my opinion, in any species, that's kind of how things work. It's like the man is essentially a provider of sorts, of something. It doesn't matter what it is, that's your job. But realistically, both parties provide something for a relationship. But in my opinion, that's just some of the responsibilities you have. So I'm willing to lay myself down for the people around me. And I would do that in a heartbeat. But I only asked you that question about would you be able to live with yourself? Because I understand that there's definitely been people in the past who gave up too easily, who sacrificed everything for a relationship that probably might not have even worked out. We know people who have given everything for a relationship, and then when it ended, what happens? It sucked.
Yeah, they end
It
up a
sucked
lot
because
worse.
not only did you give up everything of yourself for them, but they didn't even work out in the end. So my thing is, the people who are going to be here, right, give your everything to them. But also give your everything to yourself because you deserve that at least. At the end of this life, you can live happily or die happily knowing that you helped the people around you. But I don't think you would be able to die happily if you knew that in order to do that, you gave up everything you ever wanted. So there needs to be, like we talked about, a balance. You need to be able to pursue your goals while also maintaining that relationship with other people. I think that a successful person is able to do both. I don't think that there is any person who can consider themselves successful if all they did was dedicate themselves to one of those two things. I think that you need both. That's why we say that they're, two equals.
You know what's funny is I actually saw I was watching another TED Talk. I was listening to this guy, and he's a super jacked dude giving this TED Talk on the work-life balance. And the way he starts, first off, very captivating TED Talk. I really liked it, and he's a great speaker. Because the way he started the TED Talk was he got this table out, and he did a handstand on the table. And he started doing handstand push-ups and all this on the table. And he was talking while doing this handstand. And he's like, you see, everybody believes that there's this work-life balance, this perfect split of how you can live your life. But look at me while I do this handstand. And as you observe closer and closer, while it looks like he's pretty stationary, you see that his leg might be moving an inch one way, his other leg moving an inch in the other way, his arms slightly moving, muscles twitching slowly, little by little. All of these little changes are affecting him to keep him balanced. He doesn't stay still. What happens is he keeps making micro adjustments to his position to make sure that he doesn't fall. So he comes down, and then he sits on the table, and he says, after watching that, there's only one thing you should take away. There is no such thing as a work-life balance, because it is impossible. It is impossible to balance these two things forever in the same way. The way that balance comes is by first expanding your scope, by looking into the broader future of your life and seeing that you will need to make adjustments. On a day-to-day basis, you're not going to find balance. It's instead going to be a longer term process. And you are going to be making constant adjustments to your life as you go. Sometimes you're going to need to cut back on work. Sometimes you need to go harder on work. Sometimes you got to cut back on rest. Sometimes you got to rest more. It's never going to be a constant process. There is no perfect 50-50 split. That's the thing that's kind of beautiful about it, is that I guess in the beginning of your life, you're going to be working a hell of a lot more than towards the end. But you have to be careful with that, because a lot of people, for example, working in retirement, spend all this time going and getting, this job working until, like, sorry, Mike, but overall time scale, if you spend up until here working, and it leaves you with this time to really enjoy, then what was it really all for? And I'd say you need to, first off, avoid getting caught in the trap of doing something you hate every single day. Because it was a little quote that said, people work jobs they hate to enable them to buy things they don't need to impress people that they don't like. And I thought about that, and I was like, I guess we make a lot of meaningless decisions in our lives. And I'd say I've done it a lot. But for example, I went out with friends, and I was like, damn, I really got to go home. I should not be here right now. And then I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll just tag along for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, because I feel like it'll be fun. And then I find myself the next morning waking up, and I'm like, dude, I regret that so much, man. I should have gone to sleep earlier. So I think that in the moment we make these bad decisions for no good reason. And it's hard to make these good decisions because you don't really have a scope of what you want to do. But once you begin to, zoom out a little bit, you'll see, like, if you look towards your past, because if you're living always in the present and you're not looking anywhere else, you're not going to notice anything about your life. You're not going to notice the trends, right? It's like a stock market. If you only view what's happening in one day, I don't think you're going to be able to figure out what's going to happen tomorrow or even take a guess. Life is kind of like a stock market, except you get to influence it a little bit more, because you never really know what'll happen tomorrow, but you can try to guide it in a way. So if you zoom out your scope of life and you look to the past and be like, hey man, I've been, resting a lot, but I actually kind of feel like working. If you feel bad about not working, that means that you would feel good if you did. That's the way that I see it, at least. Because I know in my life when I'm not working and I'm just sat there on my phone scrolling or playing Brawl Stars or watching Netflix, watching YouTube, whatever, wasting time, at night I'm like, dude, why didn't I work that day? I would have felt so much better if I did. And then I'm sat there up at night wasting my time thinking about it. And then the next day I fall into the same trap, that same pitfall. But I believe that if you can notice that you feel bad about not working, then you should be able to connect the dots by the transitive property of math that if you do work, you would feel good, right? No work, bad. Work must be good.
Facts. And that stock market analogy was so perfect because I'm always looking at stock charts and things like that. The one day is completely useless. You know what the one day is for?
What?
Gamblers.
Yeah.
That's what it's for. You know what? I don't care what anybody says about there being a system. Maybe there is. My point is, why do day traders make money? Because somebody else is losing a lot more. So at the end of the day, to me, that's gambling. But when you expand the scope, you look at a company's 6 month. Are they making higher highs? Are they making lower lows? What's their, PE ratio? How's the company doing internally? What's their profit margins? When you look at all these things, that's when the entire picture comes together. So you can take that back to making all those micro adjustments, like that guy doing the handstand on the table. In your life, you got to analyze, expand the scope. What in your life can you adjust to make it better? What in your life do you need to change to actually give your all to both sides of this equation? Because if you can't do that, then realistically, your life is going to suck. And I'll tell you that because I go through phases of life sucking, right? And I go through phases of life being great. But the way that you can mitigate the whole how much life sucks is by focusing on the things that make life so great. So to me, I see it as a seasonal thing. Do you know who Dave Ramsey is?
I feel like I've heard the name, but
he runs this thing called the Ramsey Show. It's like a talk show where people call in or email their queries to him, and he gives his take on it.
Wait, is he like bald glasses? Yeah.
White guy with a scruffy beard, yeah.
Yeah.
And there was that one clip where the guy called in and he was like 23, pretty much just flexing because he had
Rolls Royce. Right?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay,
Now you got it. So there was a segment on his show where some guy emailed in and said, Dave, I don't know what to do. I have this business. I'm making well over 100K a month, but I'm having to put in more and more hours. Oh no, he said he was making 130ish K profit a year at the company, okay? But he's having to put in more hours, invest a lot more time, and his wife and kids don't really see him that often. And one day he went to school to pick up his kid, and his kid freaked out and was so happy to see him because he's never there. And he said, that one experience for me was an eye opener. It showed me what matters to me. So I'm conflicted because on one hand, I've put my blood, sweat, and tears into this company to build it, but I'm also questioning whether I should give it up and tear it down to spend time with my family. And Dave's response was very interesting to me. Him and the other person on his show, I don't really know who he is, but he said that the way you need to look at it is a seasonal thing. Sometimes there are going to be seasons of hard, grueling work. There are going to be seasons of fun time, of play, of vacation, of just complete relaxation. There are going to be seasons, and you have to understand that. Just like how you'd wear snow boots during the winter, but shorts in the summer, you got to understand the season for both. And you need to be clear with the parties involved, like I said earlier. So if you get together with your wife and you say, hey, this is our plan for the next, let's say, 4 years or so, we're saying these years we want to be really, really working, and these years we want to be really relaxing, full play, nothing on work. We're just going to travel the world and do whatever. When you're clear on that, then those moments where it is just complete hell and the business is extremely busy and you got to work 20-hour days, it's okay because you made the plan. You understood, hey, right now it's summertime. Things are hot, but I know that eventually they're going to cool down and I'm going to be able to relax. So it's just understanding that will help you achieve your goals on both sides of this, you know?
And in that TED Talk I watched by Nigel Marsh, I think that's his name. I hope that's his name. I really hope I'm not butchering it. But he talked about one day where he was at the office and his wife couldn't pick up his wife was with his 3 other kids. We had to pick up the last kid. And he left the office an hour early, picked up his kid. They played in the playground for a little. They went and got pizza at some cafe. They spent the whole day together, and then they went home. And then when they went home, he, tucked his kid into bed, read him a story, and as he was about to walk out, his kid was like, "Hey, Dad," and he's like, and this guy's from Australia, so he said, "Yeah, what's up, mate? All right." This is exactly how he told the story, okay? And then his son was like, "Today was the best day of my entire life ever." And he thought about it because he was like, that simple day, there was nothing special about that day. They didn't go to Disneyland. They didn't go on a crazy roller coaster. They didn't go anywhere special. It was just in their own neighborhood. Just spending time together was the best day of their life. And I guess it made me reflect a little bit on my life. And I think that maybe it wouldn't kill to spend more time with the people that you love. Because genuinely, I think that's the greatest happiness that a person can feel.
I think it's, yeah, sorry, continue.
No, I was just going to say, it's just spending time with the people that you love.
No, 100%. The thing that kind of blew my mind there with that analogy is I realized you can't quantify how much something means to somebody else. That little time that you spend with somebody, that phone call you make to your mom, on a random Tuesday to tell her that you love her, that you miss her, or what it is. Those things mean a lot to the people around you, and you might not even realize it. So to give those special moments to somebody at low cost to yourself, realistically, because think about it. What did that dad miss? 1 hour of work, and his kid described it as the best day of his life. Look at that. You traded 1 hour for 24. That sounds like a good trade to me.
You know what's funny, though, is that the guy, he said that to him, at first, like before that moment, it was just a regular day. He was just taking it, to him, his wide scope of life, it didn't mean much. Because to him, he's just picking up his kid. We play at the playground a little bit, and then we just grab a bite to eat, and then we go home. To him, it was just a day. But to a kid, to his kid, it was that day, the best day. Don't think just because something doesn't affect you in the greatest way doesn't mean that it doesn't affect other people in ways that you couldn't imagine.
Mm-hmm. That's facts. That's big facts.
Mhm.
You know, one last thing I wanted to talk about?
Yeah.
On the topic of there being seasons to relax and seasons to extensively work, I just realized that, you know what show perfectly sums that up?
Well, at first I was just gonna say school, but I don't know.
What show perfectly sums it up? Think about a show that we always draw parallels to. What is it?
Avatar.
Perfect. There you go. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. Do you know why?
Well, I'm assuming pre-war, after war, but like I don't know.
My thought process was, if you look at the show, like just what we see in the show, the first season is very relaxed. He's learning waterbending. Yes, there's urgency because the comet is coming and firebenders are at it again. But there's much more leisure. You see them going on adventures, him casually learning how to waterbend. But fast forward to the third season, right before he's about to fight the Fire Lord, and he doesn't know how to firebend. Now, what is it? It's excruciating training, learning, the true art of firebending by running into the dragon's lair, doing all these crazy things to try and figure it out and master the art of firebending. So he understood that there are seasons to it, that he can go on adventures with his friends in the first season because, hey, we're still at the beginning of the journey. But now we're getting into crunch time where the Fire Lord is really starting to show up and I'm going to have to fight him soon. What do I do? So you got to understand that there are moments where you need to, focus your firepower where it really belongs. So anyways, to sum up today's episode, I'd say, first and foremost, the work-life balance may not be a myth, but the way that people believe it or see it is wrong. It's not two opposing forces. There are two things that need to exist in harmony. The fact of the matter is you need to give your all to both, and that's how you'll be the happiest. The second thing to understand is that the two are going to be played out in seasons. Like I just said, there's going to be hard work for some, and there's going to be relaxation for some seasons. So understanding that will help you live a much more balanced life. And the final thing is value your relationships and make sure that the people around you are clear and informed on what your goals are and what their goals are as well. Work as a team, because that's how you maintain the relationships around you while also achieving your goals. Because without one, the other kind of is meaningless.
But anyways, as we come to a very sad conclusion, I mean, I guess it's a happy conclusion.
It's always a happy
It's always a
conclusion
happy
here.
conclusion at Brighter Horizons. But as this sun sets of this episode, you guys better stick around because it's time for Quote
Of
the
week.
Hirm.
Quote of the week. A bridge is easier to build when it's clear what's on the other side of it. And that quote is from Rick Rubin, who you guys have probably seen his book on there. Yeah. And it's the gray one with the circle. And it's called,
The Creative Act.
The Creative Act. That's what it is. So Rick Rubin is an author who writes a lot of books about, creativity. He just really understands it. He's actually in the studios. That's why I said artist, because he's credited on a lot of songs. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure there's Kanye songs, Travis songs, where Rick Rubin is mentioned in the credits because he's in the studio and he's just listening and saying like, oh, this vibe's right. This doesn't. Work on these things. Like, he's just that guy. He just knows. He understands. Like, he's got that creative mindset. I'm sure there's more to him that I don't know about, but that's just how I have heard about him. Either way, it's just very true that once you're clear on where you want to go, you'll be able to build that bridge much faster.
And with that note, thank you guys so much for sticking around to the very end of episode 28 of the Brighter Horizons podcast. You know I'm excited doing these outros every single time because, it means another week. I was about to say down the drain, but it's not like it's a bad thing. But
another week fulfilled.
Precisely. Make sure that you go out there and you try to find that balance of these two harmonic components. Make sure that they work together to improve your life as a whole. No matter what, don't forget the people around you and don't lose sight of your future goals. And make sure you live a positive life, y'all. Peace out.